Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a bunch of jelly prints using these Arteza acrylic colors. These ones come in 14 colors and they're all up here on the top of the box. And just to kind of look at the box, it isn't like the top of the box doesn't look that appealing to me. But then you pull the colors out and you're like, awesome. And I've used these tubes before with a couple of their pearlescent or metallic paints, and I actually really love the tubes. I think these tubes are great because you're going to be able to get every last ounce out of there when you're done. But we're going to go ahead and use these to make a bunch of prints because I want to make cards. Now keep in mind I'm coming at this from a card maker's perspective. You can use your jelly plate and these paints to make. You wouldn't even have to use your jelly plate, but you could use these paints to do all kinds of painting. But I'm gonna make prints for cards. So let's go ahead and get started making a few prints. I'm grabbing out my jelly plate, and if you saw me use my jelly plate before, you know I don't keep it very clean. I like it to be kind of grungy and dirty. It doesn't really bother me. Although I will tell you, after all was said and done with these, I did clean off my plates pretty nicely and put them away for the next time. I'm going to be using a 5x7 and an 8x10 plate. I'm also going to be using several stencils that I just have in my stash, along with some inks, the archival inks, my bad. And so let's go ahead and get started just brayering on some color. I'm using my brayer along with a couple of colors. Now you don't want to go too thick when you're doing this. And I'm going to try and do some build-up prints. And I'm going to use my 5x7 plate as basically almost like a palette, I guess. And so I'll pick up prints from it as well as picking up a big print from my 8x10. So we're going to be using all just bits and pieces. Now this thing I'm using here is an old washi tape holder. I finally used up another washi tape, and so I'm just going to use it to put some texture down onto my plate. And in between, I am actually wanting each of those layers to dry, so that way I can build up my print. And I will say that I did learn along the way that in order to get even better prints, it's actually better to work backwards. So, but hey, I'm going to keep showing you prints. Wasn't that one cool? All right, now I'm going to put some green down on my 5x7 plate. And I will say that a couple of these that I tried to open, they were sealed fine, but for whatever reason, there was like a chunk of dried paint on the top. And I think that actually sealed it pretty nicely because the paint beyond that was fine. But I did use my paper piercer to kind of pull that chunk of dried paint out. I didn't notice it in all of them. I only noticed it in 2 of them, which to me wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't a lot of paint wasted. It was like a tiny little chunk of it, but just to be aware that that could be a possibility, or maybe it's just mine. I'm not sure. So I'm brayering that on. It ended up, coming out a little too thick. So this green layer, it takes forever to dry. And in fact, by the time I do pull the print, it isn't even completely dry. I don't really know what all these stencils are, just to let you know, so I can't really link them because I don't know what they are. Some of them are some Donna Downey stencils, and if I can find them, I will link them, but a lot of these stencils I don't have names for because they were just in my stash of stuff that I have. And just so you know, I'm pulling prints from my 5x7, and I'm also going to pull, like I said, the big print from my 8x10, but we're just working on the side as well, and at the end we're going to have a bunch of really cool prints that we end up using. And I will speed up the process. You're not going to have to see me sit there and wave my hand at it or try and let these dry. I am pulling a stamp in, and I put some teal or turquoise archival ink onto it, and that stamp's fine on your jelly plate as well, and you will see this pull up, which is really cool. But like I said, I should have worked backwards, and I eventually do. I just don't show you that. It took me a while to learn, although I think these prints turned out nice too. So because this is a rubber stamp that has a cling mount to it, I didn't just want to run it underwater. So I'm just using some STAX ink cleaner. That stuff is a great cleaner, and it did a pretty good job of getting even the paint off of my stamp. But you wouldn't want to let that paint dry on there. So definitely make sure that you're cleaning off your stamps if you do use them on your acrylic paints. Clean those off right away. I'm putting down a little bit of blue, and I'm going to put some of that on the bubble wrap. So we're just using all kinds of household stuff. And then I'll rub that on the bubble wrap again. And believe it or not, that bubble wrap then will get a lot of texture onto it. And as the paint builds up on the bubble wrap, you can kind of transfer that onto your jelly plate as well. And it's even neat how my brayer has that. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So it had the bubble wrap on the brayer as well. So when I rubbed that off, it had a ton of texture, which is part of my favorite part about these jelly plates and jelly prints. And I don't like all of them. Like that one I think is kind of ugly, but again, it's paper and paint, so we can either go over it or chuck it, and no harm, no foul. This is some of that pearl paint. It's not the white. At least I don't think it is. No, actually this is the pearl paint that I had gotten once before. And this actually gets completely lost in translation, simply because I end up going over the top of it with the white paint to try and pick up the print. So this was actually a complete waste of time, but I feel like all of this is a learning process. So I don't feel like any of this is actually a waste. I feel like I am definitely learning in all this process, which to me, you know, I'm a hands-on learner anyway. I like to watch. I'm visual and hands-on, and so I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, this is going to be like the coolest print ever. But then when I pull it, it isn't what I think. So again, I think you got to work backwards. I mean, this ends up being a very cool print, but next time I'm going to learn from all this. So you'll definitely see that again. And so we're just going to keep moving on. I'm grabbing out another stamp that I have. Clearly this one's well loved. I've had this one for several years. I'm inking it up with some black archival ink, which will definitely show up again in the print. And I love having script all over my prints as well. I just think it's so cool. But you can tell that green still is not dry. So watch this. Like there's green paint all over it. So again, I'm going to clean that up before that sticks on there too much and then dries that way, because then you'll have a heck of a time cleaning it off. You can always come in with like an old toothbrush. That would work. But I don't want to have to get to that point if I don't have to, because if, you know, sometimes it causes, you know, having to use too much elbow grease, which I will eventually on some of those stencils, because I don't stick those in water like I probably should, but a lot of buildup on those doesn't bother me too much. All right, so here we go. We're going to try and pull the print. And so we're taking some white acrylic paint that was in this set of acrylics. And you, like I said again, or like I said before, you want to make sure it's a very thin layer of white paint. And then I'll come in with my paper and just rub. And then we're going to pull that when I feel like we've got it pretty good. But I'm using the heel of my hand and just checking, and then I will eventually just pull it up. But like I said, I think I've learned a lot from all of these. So I actually like the way this one looks. I think it's kind of cool. It's very yellowy, but I'm not hating. I'm not hating on it. So then we'll put that aside and we'll start working on another print. And for this print, we're going to pull in some reds, because I want I wanted the red to be in the back, but again, if you're pulling a print, it makes sense that you got to work backwards. I'm pulling in some of that pearl pink that I had. So this one is not in that set of acrylics that I originally showed you. And then we're going to make that really, really thin. And then I'll rub off my brayer on a really ugly print. And then I'm going to pull in a stencil. I really like this stencil. Don't remember what it's called, but I do love it. It might be by Robin Marie, I think. Anyway, and I just rubbed that on there to just pull some of the paint off. And then we're going to grab in some yellows. And I tried to do the brown. So I'm trying to show you that this brown, this is another one that was fairly clogged. I'd never opened these before. They were completely sealed. So I'm just using my paper piercer to get out the big old chunk. And it's a decent sized chunk. And then when I get it all out, I don't have any problem. It does, you know, it comes out just fine. This ends up being too brown for me because, you know, when you mix yellow and brown, the brown's going to be prominent. So I do bring in a little bit more yellow, but there's a lot of color here. So that's just way too much on your brayer. So again, this is another situation where I'm going to have to let that dry quite a bit. So I'm bringing in a stencil. This one is by Donna Downing. I don't remember what it's called, but I do like that. I actually think that looks pretty cool. So this, believe it or not liking those colors together ended up giving me a lot of great texture on a lot of those prints. So rubbing off my brayer, and then I even bring in another stencil to put over the top of my 5x7 plate. And then I'll pick up that print twice, and it's actually starting to look really, really cool. I like that. It's a good start. And then we'll even have some of that back there that I'm going to pick up. And I'm rubbing the stencil all over. Sorry you can't see that off to the side, but there's a lot of magic happening over there off to the side. But yeah, I'm just having fun playing. So I'll pick that print up. On the back is an ugly print. And it's starting to look a little bit better, but I like to work in layers. That's just how jelly prints work. Now I'm bringing in some like phthalo green. And it almost looks like a forest green there, but then when you mix it with the blue, it becomes a nice teal. So I'm going to try and pick some of that up and put that down with the bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is definitely one of my favorite tools to use in jelly printing. And I'm sure that some of you that are watching are jelly print veterans. I have done it in the past a little bit, and you're not always going to love every print you make. I am not a pro by any means, but I just have fun, which is most of really what we do anyway, right? I'm out there having a good time. And some of what I make is great, and some of what I make isn't so great. But if we're having fun and we're learning in the process, I'm all about it. All right, just going to spread that paint all over my 5x7. Pick up some more of, because I want to make this a print in itself. I just put my bubble wrap on there, and then I'll pick this up. And I think that looks really cool over the top of the one I did before. And then, so here I have some more of that white paint, because I didn't learn from the last time. And I'm just using a makeup sponge and putting that through another stencil in different areas. And this itself looks really cool. So this is a fun way even to just work up your prints too. So keep that in mind. If this were a canvas or a piece of paper, you can, pay attention to how I've done this, and you can work it that way too. So then I'll just pick up more of that 5x7 and keep working on those prints off to the side, which I will show you in the end. And then once again, we'll bring in this stamp because it's definitely one of my favorites. And just do the same thing that we've done. Stamping it all over those sides. So I'll just keep stamping that down. And then clean off my stamp once again, because like I said, you don't want to let that sit on there. And I'm using a microfiber cloth that does a pretty good job of cleaning up the mess. A baby wipe would probably work as well too. And then I'm looking at that, just trying to see if it's dry enough. And sorry, my camera quit, but I put some of that pearl blue with a sponge, a makeup sponge, through that stencil. So sorry that that got missed. But then I'm letting that dry, and then I'm going to come in and try and pull that print. So a lot of that does get lost because it's, again, you kind of need to work the other way. But this would be a pretty print. And that, that's just part of it. Sometimes you get good stuff and sometimes you don't. So just going over that with that white acrylic paint. A titanium would work as well, like a titanium cream even, which I use that sometimes. But these Arteza paints are really good for this gel printing. So I'll pick that print up. And this one is not my favorite, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I do like how it picks up some of those grungy bits though. So yeah, learning process. And then we're going to do one more print just to show you the paints a little bit more, because I'm going to grab different colors. This time I'm going to put down some of that phthalo green along with some blue and just put that all over that background. And I love how that turns into like a turquoise. It's really, really pretty. And we're going to come in with these texture plates. I don't even remember who these are by. These could be a Donna Downey as well. But I really like these because they add a lot of texture. And then you can even wipe that down or press that down onto some paper. I'm going to go clean it off though. Just run it under the sink. But even my brayer, look at how cool that looks just coming off my brayer. Oh, love it. It's so grungy looking. It's so cool. And I'm just trying to let that dry on that jelly plate once again. We're going to come in with some pink, some of that pink that I had used before. Put that on my plate. And then I'm going to take a stencil and set that down on top of my plate. And then run the brayer over the top of that so I can get some of that color. And that looks pretty cool too. And then we're going to grab some of the silver that's in this set. And we're going to grab the bubble wrap again. And I'm finding that it works better if you just run the paint right over the top of the bubble wrap instead of doing what I was doing there. But again, it's all a learning process. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this is actually a really good set. I love the bright vibrancy of this set of 14 Arteza paints. And of course you can mix paints to get different colors. So that's definitely fun. I'm going to bring in some yellow at this point because I want some more of those circles. And again, those circles are just from an old washi tape. So you can find things around your house, maybe even an old milk lid or something, and you can use bits like that. Foam stamps are good too. I just don't have any. I think they got lost in this last move. Or they're maybe in my garage, but chances are they probably got lost because we did lose a few boxes this last go. Bringing in that stamp again. And this, we'll do it again with the acrylic or the black archival ink. And then I'm going to clean that off, and I decide that I want to actually try to put some just white pigment ink on there as well. And that kind of gets a little bit lost. So these are things that you can add after you're done with your print. Because I don't typically stop there. When I'm done with a print, after it's printed, I will add lots more to it. Play around on it, doodle on it, whatever, stamp on it, and then I'm usually happy, which I'll show you in the end here. So here we go. We're going to try and pick up both of these prints, the 5x7 and the 8x10. Just put that white acrylic paint all over the background. And then we'll try picking up that print. And it's finally at this stage that I'm like, I should be working backwards. So whatever I want to show at the front should be something that I put down first. That makes sense. But I'm not unhappy with these prints. I think they look kind of cool. And again, like I said, learning process. There's a lot of goodness in that. All right, so let me show you the prints after I've even done a little bit more to them. And all I really did to these was some black marks by taking like an old gift card and putting it through some black paint. And then I did put a few like white dots through a stencil on a lot of these. But some of these are the ones where I just cleaned off my brayer. And I think those ones are actually my favorites. Cleaning off my brayer on that 5x7, and I love how a lot of these turned out. They're just fun and neat, and you can save these back and do all kinds of things with them. But I'm going to show you some finished cards with these. And just, anyway, just making these jelly plate prints is just fun to sit and do. So let's take a look at the cards now. All right, so I am back. I went ahead and cut down all the backgrounds that I had. I have so many pieces that I can use to make cards. So I'm going to save these, which is something fun I like to do if I'm just have these in a pile, in a box. And that way when maybe I'm lacking some inspiration, I can go through my pile of backgrounds and then I can create cards with them. But I did want to make some cards, and then once I got started, it was like I couldn't stop. So I did make several cards. So I want to show you these. These are very sarcastic. This uses my, let me grab this out. This uses the Snarky Small Talk by Tim Holtz Idea-ology, and I Just love it. I mean, I've used a ton of them, mostly in the white area. I did actually use some in the black for different things, but I have so many, and I could just keep making cards all day. So like I took this background, you know, cut it down, and I try to be a nice person, but sometimes my mouth doesn't cooperate. I don't like to think before I speak. I like to be just as surprised as everyone else about what comes out of my mouth. And I don't know who I'd send that to. It just could be fun to send to somebody in the mail, especially with everything that's going on right now. How fun would it be to get something like that in the mail? Or this one that says, I'm not great at advice. May I interest you in a sarcastic comment? You could send that to somebody who's maybe having a rough time. Nothing screws up your Friday like realizing it's only Tuesday, which, you know, who knows what days it is this week, or these days anyway. She said, that's a lot of money to spend on crafts, and I knew we couldn't be friends. How much better would life be if a liar's pants really did catch on fire? Love that one. I'm allergic to stupidity. I break out in sarcasm. My level of sarcasm has gotten to the point where I don't even know if I'm kidding or not. I thought that was fun. I've got it all together, but I forgot where I put it. Not my circus, not my monkeys. My monkeys fly. And then forecast for today, unproductive with a chance of a nap. Confession, my yoga pants have never been to yoga. So I think those are fun. So I used up all those fun backgrounds that I made, and now all I want to do is make a bunch more. And then for these ones I went really simple as well. I just have a couple that have Dude, which I used the Dude die. This is from CZ Designs from Simon Says Stamp. And then I also made several with Hello, and then I just kind of put them in different places right in the middle of these ones. But then I've just got several Hello cards ready to go. And this is the Sweet Hello die from My Favorite Things. So I'll have those linked down below as well as the Snarky Small Talk if I can find it. But again, this uses the Arteza paints, and I think these paints, I mean, I'm not a professional painter or anything. I definitely came at this from a card maker's perspective. And just a crafter in general, but I think that these are awesome. They were a lot of fun to mix and match, and I think my results were pretty good too. And again, I have so many scraps. I did make a bunch of circles as well, and yeah, I had a good time. So if you are looking for some paints, these are great, and I really do like the cap. So when you get to the end, you're going to end up using every last bit of it. There won't be any worry about having any of it left. So which is really the benefit of having the type of container that they come in. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for me. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.